Lately, it feels like the media industry is changing in real time, and not always for the better. Every week, we're seeing another round of layoffs, another publication shutting down, another creative team being downsized, and a lot of people working in media, especially Black creatives, journalists, editors, and storytellers, and it's starting to feel a little personal. We've watched beloved platforms and spaces that once amplified diverse voices slowly disappear or become consolidated into larger brands. Recently, Condé Nast announced that Teen Vogue would be folded into Vogue's main platform, a move that sparked concern about the future of youth, focused, and culturally conscious journalism. And at the same time, Blavity reported layoffs, staffs connected to platforms like Home and Texture and 2190, which were spaces specifically created to speak to Black audiences and Black women. And while media has always evolved, this moment feels different because the people most affected are often the same voices who fought to make the industry more inclusive in the first place. So today in the Girls Room, we're talking about the state of media. Who's surviving? Who's being pushed out? What happens when diversity initiatives disappear? And what the future looks like for creatives, journalists, influencers, and storytellers trying to build sustainable careers in an industry that feels increasingly unstable. Roomies, meet Kelsey-Marie, senior editor of The Sectional, a lifestyle platform dedicated to the modern woman living their life with intention. Today, we're talking about the state of media, how do we pivot, and the exciting launch of The Sectional. So grab your coffee, cocktail, or whatever you're sipping, and let's chat. Welcome to the Girls Room.
Thank you so much, Saray. I'm so excited to be here. This is my very first podcast. So, yes, and this is a great one to be a part of. So, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so honored for you to be on. I'm so excited to have this discussion with you. I've really been itching and ready for this episode of the podcast. So, let's get into segment one. Is media still a dream job? I know you and I have had conversations about our media journeys and how they've been very similar, but tell the audience a little bit more about your journey in media.
Okay, so I have been working in media since I graduated college. I went to Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina. I was a journalism major, and when I graduated, I thought that I was going to get out and immediately work at CNN as a news anchor.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we were not really given what the reality would be like as a journalism major. I thought that, okay, since I'm on RAM TV, which is our school's news station, since I was interviewing celebrities at my school for like homecoming, and since I was on BET as a college host, I thought that I was immediately going to graduate and then just be this big news anchor. And I got a reality check for sure. And instead of moving to Atlanta, I moved back to New York, and I was searching for a job in journalism, but I ended up working in TV production.
Okay.
So I worked on shows like Power. I worked on Spike Lee's She's Gotta Have It, and I worked on a few NBC, CBS shows. I worked basically on every major network TV show. However, I really hated it.
Yeah.
I was working 17-hour days. I was burnt out, and I was 20-something, spending my whole life inside of production studios, and I thought there has to be more.
Yeah.
So in 2018, I moved to Johannesburg, South Africa.
Okay.
I was in a long-distance relationship with my boyfriend, who is now my husband, and so he would come to New York, and I would go to South Africa, and we were like, one of us has to move to one of each other's countries. So I moved to South Africa, and during that time, I got to like really work on myself, and I got back to my original love of journalism. So I started with a blog. I was growing my Instagram following and creating content. And from there, I started writing for publications. So I really started at Travel Noir, which is a Blavity publication. And I was a travel journalist for a very long time, from 2019 until probably 2023. And then Home and Texture, which is Blavity's, or was Blavity's lifestyle home publication. They launched in February of 2023. So then I left my travel writing behind and moved over to being a lifestyle reporter.
Okay.
And so that's pretty much the trajectory. And I'm still a writer and a journalist now. I would like to call myself an independent writer.
Okay.
I have a Substack. I launched The Sectional, and I do some freelance writing.
Oof. What a robust resume. But I feel like that's not uncommon in the
No,
media
it's
industry.
not.
It's so fluid.
Yes.
There's a lot of ebbs and flows, but I love the key part about you moving to South Africa. That is
Yes.
freaking dope.
I would say that that was really the moment where I discovered myself.
Yeah.
And for so long, like in school, and my friends and my professors and everybody was like, oh, you should be a writer. You're a great writer. And I wanted to not be a writer because everyone was telling me to be a writer.
Really?
So I tried to like move away from it.
Yeah.
But in 2018, when I moved to South Africa, it really called me, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So
Yeah.
I just like gave into trying to, you know, be rebellious and not do what everyone wanted me to do.
Yeah. I love a fellow writer, as
Yes.
you know, and some of you guys may know that I was a reporter at one
Yes.
point and was a writer, and that brought me a lot of joy, just
Yeah.
pouring out into paper or typing, etc., and seeing your written word and really storytelling. It's an art. And
It is.
I feel like it's a little bit of a lost art in a way sometimes, where people are not reading or digging into these articles as much, but it's such a great art and so respected, and I love
But
that.
also, it's scary now because anyone can write. All you have to do is pull up Claude, ChatGPT, you input what you want to write about, and it spits something out. So that's the kind of like scary part about being a writer or a storyteller, is that now everybody and their mom could do it.
It's very scary, especially now. I remember when we would take AP quizzes.
Yes.
And now you can type something, throw it on ChatGPT, and say, put this in AP style. And they will put the whole thing in AP style. And it leads me to wonder then, for the next generation, is media a coveted role? Is it something that people would actually study? Because at this point, it sometimes gives, do you even need school for this? When anybody can grab a phone, anyone can type and make sure that there's no grammatical errors, or type in, put this in newspaper form or put this in magazine form, which, you know, like magazine is more of a different style of writing than even like newspaper style writing, or even blog writing at the time when blogging was really popular, was maybe even more informal, kind of journal diary vibes. So it makes me wonder then, what is the future? Like, what does media look like? Is that something that we should be encouraging the next generation to even do?
So one, I feel like we need to get back to reading. America has a literacy problem. I saw a video on TikTok. I don't know if you saw this. It went viral.
Okay.
But there was this guy, and he was, or maybe it was a girl. Somebody was holding up a sign with like a sentence, and some of the words in the sentence were extraordinary, gosh, and it was high school students that were reading it, and they could not even read the word extraordinary.
What?
They were saying, like, I don't even know, but they could not pronounce it, and that made me super sad.
Yeah.
And I feel like people thought it was a joke, and they were laughing in the comments, but America has a literacy problem, and I think that the root of it is social media. And also, I feel like with media right now, the thing is that anybody can pick up a phone, like you said earlier, and become a journalist.
Yeah.
Anyone can host on the red carpet now because they have social media and because they've built a following.
That is
and
true.
that's affecting journalists who have put in years of work and schooling to become journalists. Now they have to they have to also be content creators. They can't just be a journalist. They can't just be a writer. They have to also put themselves out there. They have to build a following. And if not, then they're getting overlooked for the people who have built a following, regardless of if those people have the training or not.
Yeah, that's very intriguing, which
Yeah.
makes me wonder, is traditional media dying in a way? And if yes, how do we even pivot with all of these extra things and technology coming into play? Because I remember at one point it was newspapers were dying, and that was the huge conversation. And then print media in general, your favorite magazines were no longer like magazine newspaper stands. You don't really see those things anymore. And now is the journalist dying? Like what is happening now in regards to that? And how do we find that silver lining, if there is one?
So I don't think that the journalist is dying. I think that the journalist is evolving.
Okay.
And so I don't think that you can just go into journalism anymore and say that you straight up want to be a journalist.
Yeah.
That you straight up just want to write for a living, or to be a news anchor for a living, or to be a reporter for a living. You have to also take what you do and bring it to social media. You have to build a personal following. You have to build your personal brand. You can't just want to be a journalist.
Yeah.
However, I do think that, you know, there's always ebbs and flows with everything. Everything comes back, goes away. People are now into vinyls.
Yeah.
People are now into, especially millennials, are now into going back to analog and doing those analog activities that we were raised on.
Yeah.
So I feel like with that will come back a resurgence of magazines and people wanting to read the newspaper. However, I feel like it's important to be prepared, and with that, you have to learn the art of the pivot.
Yeah.
So a lot of journalists go into social media. And
that's true.
I used to have a social media agency where I worked with clients in fashion, art, architecture, and I did that for about 5 years. And that was because I had to start a business.
Yeah.
And that was my way out of just looking for jobs and having one income.
Yeah.
Being an entrepreneur, starting a business, having a personal brand, those are all things that are no longer optional. You have to do that if you want to also be a journalist.
Yeah, I agree. I really do feel like that's becoming a thing where I forgot who said this, and I wish I could remember so I can credit the creator, but someone was mentioning in media, you can't have one thing. You have to have your other things. And I'm starting to realize that even in my own personal career where I'm having more than one thing, where when I graduated, especially when I graduated from Syracuse, I was straight like, I'm going to be a fashion editor for Vogue. Like, that was my goal. And I'm going to go hard on that one goal, and nothing else is going to steer me away from that goal. And now we're even seeing some of our favorite editors pivot to being, in a way, full-time influencers, full-time hosts, and just doing different things along those lines. Now having a social media following, and in a way I wouldn't say they're necessarily, I guess influencers and content creators, I'm learning there's a difference in a way between the two. Yeah. But it's becoming a thing now where even if you're shy on filming or producing in some type of aspect for social media, you have to in order to be sustainable. And it can be heavy. I can imagine for those who more so like to be introverted behind the scenes, you know what I mean? And now all of a sudden you have to have some type of extra zhuzh in order to solidify where you are in the media industry.
But the thing is, like, even if you're making a great salary, right, and you have this one job, your dream job, say you are a fashion editor at your dream publication, you're making 6 figures, you don't have to worry about anything, you still need to work on your personal brand, because at any moment you can wake up one day and you're locked out of your email.
And that's a fact.
And you can get laid off. And they will throw you to the side like you didn't contribute thousands of pieces of work, you know? So it's important to always have something else to fall back on. So when that layoff does come, because it will come one day, you will be like, okay, well, I've been working on my personal brand, so let me reach out to some of my brand partners that I've been working with and see if there's any campaigns. Let me pitch myself. Let me put myself out there. Yeah. Because if you only put all your eggs in one basket, you're going to be so disappointed when it all comes crashing down.
Oof, that is a new reality.
It's a new reality.
Leads me to wonder then, why is it that layoffs seem so constant right now in media? Because I feel like we've all experienced it. I've experienced layoffs before, but I remember at one point being laid off and being the only one laid off out of my friends. Like, now it feels like I know way more people in media that are laid off, vice versa. Before it was like you were laid off, but it was like, oh shoot, like you got laid off. Like, it wasn't as constant, and you had a little bit more of a higher probability to get a job. So what's going on right now, in your opinion?
So I think that there's a couple things. There's AI. Oh, yeah. Whereas when you used to Google something, there would be all of the articles that wrote about that subject. And so some people would scroll through pages, they would click on those articles, spend time on those pages, and those publications will get views because of Google. Now what's happening is if you Google something like best coffee shop in Atlanta, there's an AI overview that comes up that tells you all, like, they they really analyze all the articles, thousands of articles. They tell you what the top ones are. So most people with short attention spans, because our attention spans are way shorter than it was even 5 years ago, they're just looking at that AI overview. So what that means is that these publications are not getting the views that they used to get. And when you don't get the views that you're used to getting, that means that your advertisers are not going to give you the ad money that they used to. Because it's like, why would we pay you all this money when your views are low? So then that leads to no money for this publication, and that means they have to start laying people off. And I agree with you, like being laid off, it was like embarrassing, or a lot of people felt a lot of shame around it and didn't want to admit that they were laid off. But now if you looked on LinkedIn, every day people are laid off. It has been normalized. Insane. Being laid off is very much normalized now. And the scary thing is the job market is so bad that people have been laid off for like years. And they've been applying to thousands of jobs and can't find any. And that's why I'm saying, like, it's so important to start your own brand and to start your own business, because even during those times of layoffs, like, say you want a job, and that's fine, you can still look for a job. But if you're looking for years and you have no backup plan, that's not good.
It's tough and it's frustrating. And there's nothing worse than job hunting. When you don't have any type of source of income or any brand or anything that you're building. It's, oh my gosh, I've been there. I've experienced that. And I think that was one of the things that even launched some of the brands that I currently have now, was that I did not want to be put in a place where if someone said, okay, bye, see you later, like, it feels like you're at someone's mercy, if you will. And I think that is a very valid point in regards to pivoting in the creator realm, is allowing yourself to create your table and have your table, that the other table that you have, if it all falls apart, you have something else that's a solid foundation. So that is a very great point, and something that I think is going to be a word for a lot of people in the journalism and creative industry. Even for myself, it's speaking to me, to be honest with you. Let's get into segment 2. So we said goodbye to Home and Texture and 2190. So on Threads, at _sticks in the city _ he posted about the layoff, and he said, today I was laid off from my contract role at Blavity's Home and Texture. As the brand is sunsetting, I've been laid off before, but this one stung a bit more. It feels like another reminder that voices from niche spaces in Black media and representation keep disappearing, and that point to a much bigger issue playing out across Black media. So considering you also were working at Home and Texture and under the Blavity umbrella, like, what are your thoughts specifically on this post?
So one, Sticks is one of my best friends.
Oh, wow.
And we met because of Home and Texture.
Wow.
So I feel like that is one of the best things to come out of my Home and Texture experience. Secondly, he's a very, very talented beauty writer and editor. And Home and Texture was his first time coming into like this home lifestyle industry. And so what he said, I feel like it showed how passionate that the small but mighty team at Home and Texture was about the work that we did. It was just myself, Sticks, and another editor. And it was the three of us that curated all of the content that went up on Home and Texture's website, as well as contributing to social. And Home and Texture launched in 2023, so it was alive for like 3 years. And I feel like it has so much potential, but I do think that the AI, the advertising, the views, the money, I think that that all led to Blavity sunsetting the brand. But it was a great brand, and we did great work. We launched our Design Vanguard last year, where we really highlighted Black and brown people in the design and lifestyle industries. And we interviewed a lot of tastemakers, a lot of Black and brown entrepreneurs. And it's really sad because we were the ones doing that storytelling for Black and brown people in their home, to show their design, to show Black home culture. And so now it's like, well, if there's no platform specifically telling those stories, then do Black and brown stories in the home and lifestyle. Specifically, like, are we going to be suppressed? Because there's other publications out here that's talking about home and lifestyle and luxury living,
Yeah.
but do they highlight the Black and brown stories in the way that they need to be highlighted?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I'm curious about in general in regards to Black media. And I feel like we're starting to see a lot of brands, especially Black brands, start to, it's shrinking, right? And especially with home and texture, for someone like me who's looking into even home ownership, decorating my apartment, like things that really are starting to matter to me outside of like an IKEA haul, even though, shout out to IKEA, nothing wrong with IKEA, but like the hauls that I would do like in my dorm room or even in my New York City apartment was like, but now I'm really trying to get into those details. Do I hire a stylist to really bring my ideas to life when it comes to my space? And I feel like Home and Texture was that hub that I went to see what you guys are talking about, what's the latest trend, what's going on, and it kind of fed a little bit of my fashion spirit, but more on a lifestyle standpoint for my space, where your space is your sanctuary in a way. And so it is really unfortunate, which leads me to the conversation of Black media and what is next for Black media. Are we going to see a resurgence in the future, or is it something that we're not talking about enough?
So, in 2020, how all these brands were giving money to Black entrepreneurs, Black creators, Black businesses. Like, I even saw that a lot of brands started reaching out to me as an influencer, and I started making real money from being an influencer in 2020. However, by 2021, I would say all of that dried up. Not all of it, but like a lot of it dried up.
Yeah.
And so I think that is what's happening right now, unfortunately.
Interesting.
I feel like a lot of advertisers are not wanting to give money to Black publications.
Really? I wonder why that is. And is it just due to straight up racism and not feeling like the Black voice is important anymore? Interesting.
I feel like it's saying that, okay, Black voices, like, yeah, we heard y'all in 2020. However, like, wrap it up because we don't really care. So I feel like now it's like they want to put money into publications that are serving everyone.
Yeah.
And not just Black people.
Yeah.
So I feel like Black publications are really struggling right now because of that. And it's up to us to really support those Black publications. So
For sure.
Are we buying the prints? Are we going on the website? Are we subscribing to the newsletters? Because if we're not, then we can't be crying that it gets shut down.
Yeah.
And talking about, oh, I would have loved this, or oh, I wish you guys would have stayed on longer. Well, you could have been doing things to support us, like viewing the website daily, or reading the emails and clicking on the affiliate links. So all of that really matters.
Yeah, that's interesting. So now for those who are Black who have been laid off, navigating, what exactly do you feel like could be something that we all can do to support those that we know who've been laid off? Is it that we all need to band together and start something fresh? How do we actively, outside of course, reading the articles, but those that have dissolved and are looking into the what next, how do we all continuously support each other in that realm?
So a lot of Black journalists, they have Substacks or they have Instagrams. They have their own platforms.
Yeah.
And so I think it's now more important than ever to support those Black journalists personally. So if you see a Black journalist that you like, follow them, keep up with them. If they are promoting something, if they do a partnership, click on those links, purchase through their affiliate links, subscribe to their Substack, be a paid subscriber. Just really support those journalists while they're going through their job search. Yeah. If you hear of something that would be great for them, reach out to them, put them forward. There's a lot of different ways that we can support people without actually having to spend our own money, because in this economy, I know that money is tight for a lot of people. So there's free ways that you can show up and support journalists, and that's by really just supporting their platforms and engaging with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think the future of Black media, in my mind, is not necessarily dying, at least from what we, like this conversation we're having in regards to traditional media. We're seeing some shrinkage, but like mentioned, these people are creating their brands and their social medias, their Substacks, their podcasts, like all types of things that can be supported. And so it's more so, in my mind, a reframe of thinking of, okay, yes, your publication might be gone, but they still exist. These humans are still here.
Exactly.
And now follow, subscribe, watch their YouTube channels, follow their TikToks, etc. And that goes for anyone. It's very interesting, the conversation of 2020, because I remember it being like, oh, we're going to support. And it's unfortunate when Black media in general, it feels like it's only popular when it's trending, when there's some type of call to action. In 2020, a lot of people were angry, and it just felt like maybe it was more so a performative thing, to be honest, of, okay, like, everybody's angry, let's just keep the mob quiet.
Yeah.
We're going to support. And then 2020 was like, okay, now that it's no longer, you guys aren't mad anymore? Okay, cool. We're just going to go and do our thing over here. And that can be extremely frustrating in general. And it's a constant thing that I do think that we have to look at and keep a close eye on, so that we're constantly whistleblowing when we notice something is off. Things have been changing, and we notice. And I think Black voices are powerful. We know Black voices are powerful. I don't think I know that Black voices are powerful. And so the more we speak, the more we stand on business about the things that we care about and actually hone in on the things we care about, I think it's very powerful what we all can do when we actually put our minds and voices together for something that's important.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the trajectory of Black media right now? Like, we talked about, there's a lot of people, they hear like these big Black publications like Essence and Ebony and Blavity, and they don't realize that it's actual humans that are behind these publications making these stories go out. But what do you think about the publications overall?
What do I think about the publications overall? I think there's a couple of things. One, we have to have a conversation about management. How are we managing each other? In media in general, it's difficult, right? I've experienced, especially in New York media, and even outside of New York media, being under people, Black, white, man, woman, where it's a constant fight, where that quote of like 1 million girls will kill for this job, you feel kind of like you're killing yourself for your job, and because you want to be in media so badly. And I've realized that it doesn't matter whether you worked in white spaces or Black media, sometimes you are still in a space of toxic work environment. And so I think that's something that, as a whole, but especially in Black media, we have to pay attention to, because there are Black journalists or up-and-coming writers that are going to go into these publications in hopes that if they join a Black space, that they're going to get a little bit more warmth, a little bit more of a safe space where they can create and develop, and they're not always met with that. And that is a huge problem. And so I do think, in regards to Black media as of current, because I hear of a lot of different publications that may not be so great when it comes to management, may not be your coveted place to work, or, you know what I mean? And I think, although Black media, unfortunately, sometimes doesn't even get the funding that they deserve, a lot of times they're fighting, they're running on a hamster wheel. Sometimes it's a smaller team, and I can't imagine how exhausting sometimes, or exhausted, they are. But at the same time, I do feel like it is important for all of us, whether, especially if we're in editorial or just manager roles, to create safe spaces for those who are under us, to not experience a toxic environment, because that sometimes domino effects into the lack of support as well, because they 100%. Might tell their friends, and this place is not a place that you should support. You should not read this because I heard. And granted, there's always going to be a hater, but if you can create as much of a positive work environment as possible and not an elitist space, then I think it will change the game sometimes with some Black media spaces. So that is my current thought in regards to that. In regards to Black media, however, there is still a beauty to Black media regardless. And it's beautiful when you can see someone that looks like you and on a page of a publication. And I know I used to look forward to, my mom used to have, covers of Ebony magazine at our house. And I looked forward to seeing Ebony magazine, or seeing Essence and seeing like Halle Berry on like the cover. And you're like, oh my God, like she's gorgeous. And it's something when you're young that it leaves something on you. It's something that resonates that you can't necessarily get past. You'll always remember the colorful covers and seeing all of the beautiful Black faces. And a lot of other publications, a lot of times we're trying to fight for representation. And the only time we get a representation is if you're big like Beyonce and you'll see her or you'll see Rihanna. It's like, okay, can we get anybody else on the cover? So it's a lot of that where there is so much beauty and then there's so much that could be changed that systematically needs to be rectified a little bit when it comes to Black media, in my own personal opinion. But otherwise, I do think there's room for us to grow. And I think that me, you, and the voices that know what needs to change, like we can be that person that creates that change for the future.
Yeah. And what you were saying about your mom having those Ebony magazines, I think that that's so important too for building the next generation self-esteem, because I grew up where I had a lot of Ebony and Essence in my house. I went to a HBCU where I was surrounded by Black people. My schooling was mostly surrounded by Black people. So I never had to wonder, is being Black beautiful? Because I always felt like, okay, I'm surrounded by all of this Blackness, and yes, my parents are from the Caribbean, but I grew up around Black American, African American culture, and so I always felt confident in who I was as a Black person until I left my HBCU and I moved to New York, and I had to start like being around more white people. It was the first time in my life that I was like surrounded by white people in the workplace. And I feel like the importance of Black publications is to show that, yes, especially with like publications like Home and Texture, yes, you can be Black and own a beautiful home. And yes, you can be Black and hire an interior designer. For sure. And yes, you can be Black and you can hire a personal chef. Like Black people can do these things too. It's not only reserved for other races. And seeing Black people living in luxury in media is so important. And having their stories told well is so important for building the next generation's self-esteem and love of being Black.
Yeah, definitely. Oof. Yeah. You put it on the nail right there. That's that gives me chills in regards to, I think there's a lot of, I like to stay optimistic, and I think there's a lot of optimism and positivity, and I think that there is still hope for us yet, and I think we're the hope that is going to be for media. It may not look like what we are used to, but I think there's a lot of good change that's going to happen.
For sure.
Pivoting to that with segment 3, talking about media, it feels a little shaky. And so there's this conversation of passion versus stability. And I remember when I wanted to get into media, we're both West Indian, and my mom was like, you want to be broke? Okay, you want to go into media. Okay, no, you're going to be a nurse. You're not going to do that. I eventually pivoted I was a pre-nursing major my freshman year and pivoted. It's a whole story, but I was so glad that I did, because I was passionate about it, and that passion did turn into something that became stable for me. But with layoffs and all the shaky things happening, for those who are curious about pivoting into media, is it better to have a different job and have media on the side and see if it works out for you? Like, is there a realm where media is more so a passion project now versus a stable realm? So
I'm very much an optimist who prioritizes passion over stability. And I don't know if that's the smartest thing to prioritize. But as for me, and what I tell people is that if you feel in your heart that you want to work in media, then you should go for it. Because if you're not giving it your all in the beginning stages, then you're not going to progress and get where you need to be. So I feel like it's really important, if you want to work in media, to give it your all and do it. However, I know that like not everyone is privileged to take a job working $30,000, making $30,000 a year when they're fresh out of college and they have to pay rent. So if there's other ways that you can make money, such as like you can work in retail or you can do gig work, doing Uber Eats or just freelance work, then I think that is definitely the route that you should take. But I don't think that working in media is dead. there's still a lot of money in media to be made.
Yeah.
It's just being strategic and giving it your all, and also starting your own thing, because social media now, it's free to make a social media account. It's free to make a Substack account and just put yourself out there. And so you can be building your portfolio online in front of everyone publicly, while taking on brand partnerships. And then like maybe your dream company will see you and hire you. So I think it's important to, if you want to work in media, you have to go for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't regret going into media.
Yeah, me
Granted, I
neither.
went into media a while ago at this point, but for those who are still wanting to get into media, I'm excited to see what could happen, considering we're in the realm of TikTok and Instagram. Oh my gosh, if I was 19, 20 in TikTok,
I know. I
would have
wish.
killed
Yeah.
TikTok. I would have had a lot
Yeah.
to say. I'd been like, okay, listen, we got to chat. Let's tea on what's going on, but still understanding journalism ethics, because a lot of people can talk. There's a lot of people who don't have any journalism background, but there's still a beauty in being educated on that level, whether it's journalism or marketing or whatever that looks like in your media world, PR, etc. And I'm grateful that I even went and got my degree in those things. And even if you didn't get a chance to get your degree, take classes
There's
online.
classes you could take.
Yes,
Yeah.
like I'm glad I know communication law, because there's a lot of things that you can get sued for defamation for certain things. And so understanding those things, but still having a voice and understanding the world around you, how things are structured, I do think there's a world for it. And I'm glad you said that, because I have been curious as to how some people feel about media. I know a lot of people that have gone to school originally for media and then pivoted to something totally different because they did not see media as a solid place to land. And that's fair. Like you mentioned, like not a lot of people get the opportunity to say, oh, I can work at $30,000. I did not have the opportunity. I could not work a $30,000 job. I've taken that before, and then I went to grad school, and then I moved to New York City, and then I really learned the art of asking for the salary I desire. Because if not, like, where am I going to live? I'm going to have to...
Yeah, you can be on the streets.
Move. Exactly. Like, it's going to look real crazy in a second. So, but I do think that with passion does come stability. And I do think if you have a solid plan on what you're going to do, it's going to work out for you. So I agree with that. So,
and the thing is too, like, you have to be patient. So a lot of times we see people and we're like, oh, I love their career trajectory. They're doing all of the things, but we don't see the years that they put in to get there. Some people have been doing this for 10 years.
A very long time.
And then now they're starting to get that recognition that they deserve, but they've been putting in the work for a very long time. So it's important to be patient, and also to know too that some people were just privileged. They got rich parents that was paying their rent.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I didn't have that, and you didn't have that. So we had to like get it out the mud.
Yeah, for sure.
If you are not privileged, just like don't be so hard on yourself, and know that it's gonna take time. But if you're really passionate about this, you have to do it, because you don't want to like let 10 years go by and you're like, dang, I'm working this job, making great money, but I'm really miserable. I wonder what would have happened if I would have stuck it out working in media.
Yeah, that's a real thing. And I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because it's true. We'll see our favorites, fill in the blank, editors, influencers, and think like, okay, we're going to drop this video. We're supposed to go viral. Yeah. And sometimes, that does happen sometimes for people. But it does take time, and there is a process. And some of these people have been in spaces for a long time. We've been in media for a very long time. And so there's some people I know that were in media for so long, and it took one video, and all of a sudden they were like at the top of their game. And so that is true. It is a slow burn, but it's a worth it slow burn.
It's worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into segment 4. Let's talk about the sectional.
Yes.
I'm so excited to hear about this. So what inspired you to create the sectional?
So I wanted to start my own thing. I feel like I am an entrepreneur at heart. And there were a lot of like red tape around certain stories I wanted to tell, or certain destinations I wanted to talk about. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh, if I had my own publication, I can talk about what I want to talk about, what I see valuable. So I wanted to make a publication for the stories that I wanted to see. And so the sectional was launched in January of this year. It's still very, very new, but it's a woman's lifestyle publication. And it's for really the modern woman. And when I say the modern woman, I mean the one who, yes, you're a mom, but you have dreams too. And so you're not just like worried about your kids. You're taking care of your kids, but you have a life where you're pursuing your passions and your dreams. Or it's for that single woman who is in her 20s or 30s, but she has an aspiration for her career. She may not care about getting married or having kids, but she wants to live a full life, and it's okay to live a full life without a man and a child. So it's for that modern woman who has a very modern view of what being a woman is. And so we cover travel, we cover style and beauty and wellness, and I love telling those stories and talking to founders and just really like curating what our modern women are living right now.
I absolutely love that. I'm excited. I followed the Instagram and I'm really excited about reading it. Was there a moment when you were like, something like this does not exist in the media space? What was that light bulb where you were just like, you know what? I'm going to create this. I don't see it. This is what's going to happen.
So I read a lot of publications. I subscribe to a lot of different newsletters, and I just feel like everything is so cookie cutter, especially when it comes to women's lifestyle. There's a few publications who are like telling really great stories. Like I Love The Cut. Specifically, I think that they do an excellent job.
For sure.
But The Cut is not just for women.
Yeah, for sure.
So the light bulb went off for me when I was reading the stories and thinking, well, I don't really care about like what everyone else is wearing or what everyone else is doing. I want to hear the unique stories from a woman's point of view. And so that's why I wanted to start the sectional. And so I have plans on interviewing more founders and interviewing more women about like their fertility journey, their career journey, how they look at money and finances and creativity. And so right now we're in the building stages. Okay. So right now we're writing stories under those topics and those verticals, but I want to get to the point to where we're really interviewing other women and telling their stories.
This is awesome. Yeah. Are you going to have a launch party? You should have something.
I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I should.
That would be really awesome.
That would be fun.
Because I think this is something that is a need. I think it's going to speak to a lot of women that need a hub that they can go to. It's kind of like when women used to watch Oprah. Like you knew that was like your hub that you looked forward to, or Tyra. Like I know for like us, I used to come home from high school and sit and watch Tyra.
I did too.
So to know that if there's another publication of like, oh, like the sectional just came out with something amazing, like I'm going to sit down with my tea and I'm going to read the sectional and what's going on. And I think
I love that you said that. Yeah. Because I didn't really think about it in that way, how like our moms used to watch Oprah at a certain time and they used to be tuned in. And so we've kind of lost that. We don't really have that place where we're all like, as women, we all like tune in.
Yeah.
So the sectional definitely is that place.
Yeah. I'm excited. Yeah. Where can our audience find out about the sectional and learn more?
So everyone can find out about the sectional at thesectional.com. We're also on Instagram, and the Instagram handle is thesectional.com. So DOTCOM.
Perfect. Yes. Amazing. And then my favorite part, segment 5, is a love letter. So she's feeling as she would love experiencing media and potentially going through a pivot or trying to understand what media looks like for her right now.
Okay. Dear woman in media, I know it may feel super difficult right now. You may not know what your life's purpose is, and you're questioning every decision that you made to get to where you currently are. But just know that the future is bright for you. Continue doing what you love and what your heart is telling you to do. Continue telling those stories. Continue putting your heart out there for people to read, because you never know who may be inspired by the words that you have and your experiences. And know that rainy days will not always last forever. The sun will come out again and you will thrive, and just continue just being yourself and loving on yourself, and knowing that in these slower moments, this is your opportunity to really pour into yourself and read and write and journal and do all the things. So keep going. Media is not dying. Do not let anybody fear you and into quitting and changing careers, and just live for yourself and continue putting yourself out there. And I promise you that it will all pay off. Love, me.
I love that. Oh my God, that was so good. I absolutely love it. Where can our audience follow you and continue on your journey?
So I am on Instagram at Kelsey-Marie, KELSEY-DASHMARIE. I'm also on TikTok under that same handle, and my Substack is called Dash of Life.
I need to follow your Substack. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is so good.
The Girls Room. I enjoyed this so much. And thank you guys for watching The Girls Room. You don't have to go home, but you got to get out the room. I'll see you guys next time. Oh my God.
You said you're rude. I said breathe out.